Welcome to Backstage with Becca B with special guest Allison Bailey. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, this Boston Conservatory grad has been a part of the Wicked tour family for almost exactly 5 years and took over as lead Glinda on September 24th, 2019. Please welcome Allison Bailey. I'm glad you could come on this with me.
Oh, thank you. And I love your pumpkins. They make me so happy.
Thank you. I went to a pumpkin patch the other day because fall and had to do something
you must.
fall.
You must.
Yeah. And I had to get two because one for me and one for my dog.
Of course, absolutely. Sometimes it's 2 for you, 3 for dog. It just depends. So
Yeah, exactly. How have you been?
Good. I'm in Florida. I'm with my family. So
Oh,
yeah, so it's good. You know, it's like a hard time for everybody, but I can't complain too much because I am with my family and it could be 100 times worse. So
yeah. I'm sure you want to be on the road touring, but
oh yeah. So, but you got to find the silver lining somehow, and so this is it. But how are you?
I'm doing good. I think the silver lining here is that I haven't been home this long in so long.
Yeah, me too.
So,
I mean, I haven't been home this long since I was 18, when I left for college. Versus, this is the most time I've been able to spend with my family. It's always 2 weeks here, a week here, and it's just never enough. So it's nice.
yeah, it's really nice. And it's at first you're okay, this sucks, but
Yeah, absolutely.
We're learning how to be positive about everything.
Yeah, and you realize everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get by, and so that does make it easier when you realize it's not just you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, anyways, I'll get into some theater questions.
Okay, give them to me. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Of course. So have you always known that you wanted to be a theater performer and an actress on stage?
Yes. So I started performing when I was 7. And so doing, Oliver and Annie and all the shows. I mean, there were times that I would watch Apollo 13 and I'd be like, do I want to be an aeronautical engineer? And then I realized how much math was involved and I said, absolutely not. So there were times where sure, I thought I was going to, do a different career path, but I always loved performing. So I've always come back to it. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned Apollo 13 because I feel like every child at some point wants to be go to space or something.
Absolutely. I was like, I can send people to space. I can do this. And then I was like, absolutely not. No, Houston does not want me to work for them. So singing it is.
My parents were like, you do realize there's a lot of you have to go in the scary spaceship and it goes fast and you the takeoff is scary, and I'm like,
yeah, it's a little different than just the movie, Allison. So, yes.
Maybe not. Do you remember what the first show you ever saw was? Theater show?
I know the first Broadway show I ever saw was Lion King.
Good
that
one.
Was my first one, and I was in 4th grade, and it was at Christmas time. So my mom took me up there with a girls' trip. It was a bunch of her friends and then their kids. So we had a great time. But it was Lion King, and then we saw the Rockettes. So that was my first taste of Broadway.
Of New York City and stuff.
New York City, yeah.
Yes. Were you I have to live here someday?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think, did I really know I was going to live there? I don't know if that's a decision I made at 4th grade, but I knew I loved it. I had definitely been bit by the theater bug. So, yeah, I think I could have envisioned myself there then.
Yeah. And what was the first show you ever were in?
Oh, okay. So my first show ever was Oliver. I played a boy orphan, so they had enough girls. I don't know. So I played a boy orphan, and I was so happy to be there. So Oliver was my first show.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
I feel like every young theater performer is in a show where they're oh yeah, if they're a girl, I played a boy in this.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think you should, just play everything. You learn a lot, that's for sure.
Exactly. And you grew up in Florida. So how did you find theater around Florida? Is Florida like big into theater where you grew up, or?
You know, certain parts of Florida, especially South Florida, they have unbelievable performing arts schools and high schools. And where I'm at in Pensacola is the Panhandle. And there really, to be honest with you, there's theater, but it's not like going to college was my first time of ever hearing the word equity or LaDuca shoes. Like I didn't know anything about the business. I just knew I liked theater. So I performed in community theater. I didn't even perform in my high school. My high school didn't really have a great theater program. So I just did community theater. I always was in the ensemble because I did theater with adults. So they were always playing the leads because that made sense. And so I'm grateful for it because I got to learn how to be a team player. You know, I was never the lead. I never was the star. I was just always in the ensemble and happy to be doing the show.
Yeah, and you probably looked up to the adults that you were performing with while performing.
Totally. And I'm grateful for that. I definitely learned a lot for sure.
So then you talked about your college experience. What was your education experience in college like when you like really got into musical theater and like learned more about it?
I mean, I'm like, honestly, looking back, I joke about it all the time. I'm like, I'm so fortunate I even got into college. I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. I guess because I went to Boston Conservatory, so I went so far away from home. I had never really spent the night away from home. I barely had a slumber party. So for me to go 26 hours away was weird, but I did. And I loved it. I learned so much. Even in college, I wasn't the star. I was in the ensemble. I think my first main stage show was my senior year of college. Like I just, I learned how to just go to school and be a part of a little bit of everything. And so I learned a lot. That's definitely when I learned more about the business for sure.
There's a lot of people who like talk about college being competitive with musical theater. Was it competitive at your school?
Yeah, very much so. What was nice about BOCO is that some schools they make really strong singers or they make really strong actors. And I truly believe across the board, BOCO's just makes you a strong triple threat. They don't just create a star, they create somebody that will work, even if that's their first job is in the ensemble. So yes, it was competitive because also too, our classes weren't just like 9 people. I had a class of 50. And so when you think 4 classes, that makes 200 people. So it's almost like feeling like you're in the real world. You're competing against 200 people instead of, 5 girls for a role, which they all have their pros and cons, but it was definitely competitive because there was 200 of us trying to get in a show.
Yeah. So it probably gave you like a before look at auditions.
Preview. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a great preface into going to New York because, New York is so hard and so competitive. So it was a really good transition.
You feel like a tiny fish in a sea.
Yes, very much so. And I kind of felt like that in school, so.
Yeah. I mean, college is overwhelming no matter where you go, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if you're moving away, if you're living in a dorm, it's like, whoa, what is happening?
It's a lot, for sure.
Is there a most valuable lesson you learned besides anything you've already mentioned from college?
Oh, gosh. I mean, honestly, saying yes to everything. I went to every audition at school. I mean, even when I was in New York, I did. But even at school, like if I knew that necessarily I wasn't very completely correct for the role, I still went. I learned a lot. You learn a lot from watching people perform, or you learn a lot from hearing what's going on in the room ahead of you. I don't know, anytime that you can say yes to an opportunity, I think that's the best thing you can do is just say yes, and it'll open up more doors than not.
And then after college, pre-Wicked, what shows did you participate in? What was your favorite show to participate in? Like, did you do regional stuff or?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. So when I had moved to New York, I had a year of honestly auditioning, pounding the pavement, just trying to get a door to open. So honestly, I did one summer stock show in Vermont with St. Michael's Playhouse, and it was Spam-A-Lot. And I was a Laker girl. I was in the ensemble, but it was only like a 3-week run. And that was the only theater I did for a year. I was constantly auditioning, just trying to get a show. So yeah, that was my only show. My only show that year was Spamalot.
Wow, because I feel like most people don't realize that like people in these big name shows like Wicked, so to speak, like it doesn't automatically happen all the time.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, somebody told me that it was going to take me 5 years before I actually landed the job that I wanted. And thank goodness it didn't take 5.
Yeah.
But it took a year. It takes a lot of patience. You could have the best person in the world in the room, and it just may not be the right time. And it doesn't make them any less talented or any less, worthy of the role. It just may not be their time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, do you have any audition tips or anything you learned to calm your nerves before I get into Wicked and auditioning for that?
Cool. I am a nervous Nilly. I get nervous about everything. So nerves are real. They're so real to me. And I get super nervous at auditions, even now. Like I always do. So for me, I definitely have to take a lot of deep breaths because my hands get a little shaky. So just taking deep breaths and just centering yourself and knowing that whoever's across the room or the self-tape or whoever you're auditioning for, they don't want you to fail. They're really, really hoping that you're the next person to get the role. So if you think about they're wanting to see the best of you, then that always makes me feel better.
Yes. Yeah. That's something that like in life you want to remember that people are rooting against you.
Absolutely. Like, I think it's important.
And do you remember your audition experience for Wicked?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I had 4 different rounds. So I went in, I had to sing for our resident director and casting. Then I left and they called me back later that afternoon and said, can you come back in a few days and go to the Gershwin Theater to sing for the music director? And I had never been backstage at a Broadway show. Like this was the coolest thing in the world for me because I had never experienced that. So went to the Gershwin. I had like a music rehearsal for like an hour and they said, okay, can you come in tomorrow and do it again for the director and casting again? And so of course, yes. And then they were like, hey, so we want you to come back in and do a dance call. So at that time I was thinking, I was like, there's probably at least 8 of us, 4 of us. Like there's a bunch of girls at least that they're trying to wheedle down. And I got to the dance call and they were like, it's just you today. And I was like, excuse me? Like it was just the weirdest thing. And so, but they had a drummer there, they had a percussionist, and they had a pianist, and then they had the dance captain from Broadway and our assistant choreographer. And basically we just did a dance call, like an hour of just me partnering with a partner. And then about an hour later, I got the call and said, you're going on the road in 6 days. So that was my process. So I had 4 different rounds. Everybody has their own experience, whether that be like 2 callbacks, 1 callback, a self-tape. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason, but that's how mine worked.
Then it happens really quick all of a sudden.
Yeah, yes. And some people they have to keep the secret for months. Mine was just 6 days. So I was about to bust. So thank goodness I only had to keep the secret for a few days.
Yeah, keeping exciting news for longer than like, I don't know, a week. I don't know how people do that.
I don't either.
Like I get it, you get in trouble if you like tell people, but like honestly at the same time.
No, that was my hardest thing is that I actually had 6 weeks to keep the secret when I came back for Glinda. And that was the hardest thing in the world. It was so hard. So I have mad respect for people that can keep it longer.
Did you ever imagine that you'd be auditioning for Wicked and like that you would get the part and like go on tour?
No. I vividly remember writing to I must have been an 8th grader going to like my community theater show. I think we were doing Oklahoma at the time. And I looked at my mom and I was like, gosh, I hope Wicked's still on Broadway for me to do the show one day. But I mean, gosh, I was barely in high school. So not thinking the show would still be running, not really thinking that the odds would be in my favor to actually play the role. So no, everything is a mind-boggling dream, truly.
Had you seen Wicked previously?
Yes. My first time was in 8th grade.
Who was your first Glinda and Elphaba?
Oh, it was Jennifer Laura Thompson and Shoshana Bean.
Oh.
So yeah, so really, really great.
Oh, that's a good pair.
Yeah.
And it's like now it's full circle.
Completely. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. It's because I saw, I guess, Jennifer Lauren Thompson when she was in Dear Evan Hansen. And so it's just, it's just fun. Everybody grows up and everything like that. But it's been really cool.
Yeah, and you're like, now I'm playing Glinda.
I know.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So it's kind of worked out really cool.
So, do you remember your first time being on stage during the national tour?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So like in my ensemble role, like I was so excited for that one. I was so excited because I knew I was in the ensemble. So I was like, no one's looking directly at me. I'm just happy to be here. It was so exciting and so fun. And that's the first time you have a put in. So you have like a put in rehearsal before then, but you don't really have like the whole lights and fog and all the effects. So that was the first time that everything came together. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
How did you like prepare that day?
I don't know. I think they do prepare you really well. I had already had like 2.5 weeks of rehearsal. No, I had a month. I had a month of rehearsal because I had like 2.5 weeks to learn my ensemble and I had 2 weeks to learn Glinda. And then I went into the show. So, so I had a while. They prepared us, like over prepared us. And, so I think I was ready to do it. I just, you listen to fun music before the show and, it's exciting. The cast is always really supportive.
And since you're in the ensemble, did you like grow up taking dance classes and stuff? So you like had dance experience before, or?
Yeah, I mean, my mom put me in dance class at 3. I don't know how much I learned in ballet, but 3. But I had been dancing my whole life through high school. I really, though, honed in dancing in college. I probably was not the best dancer going into college, but I felt really competent by the end of graduation, for sure.
And it's like, and then it's something that you can bring to the stage, which like gave you an advantage with going in for an ensemble part and understudying.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes it all back to the Boko days when you're like, I'm really thankful they taught me how to be a good dancer because, my first track was it was an understudy. I was in the ensemble.
Yeah. And then, what's your favorite? There's so many amazing ensemble costumes in the show. What's your favorite ensemble costume?
I will say I'm real partial to the fanny track for Emerald City. I love like the big cupcake wig and the tutu, like the big green tutu that she wears. That's probably my favorite costume out of the whole show. I just think it's the coolest thing. And recently, like they rebuilt it to where it's even poofier and fluffier. So I'm obsessed with that costume.
I always ask what's the funniest thing that's happened on stage to people, and a lot of them with Wicked are like with the costumes because like they're so extra and they're so awesome and just like, I mean, from what I've heard, really heavy.
Yes, a lot of them are really heavy, really, really heavy. Like the ball gowns that the girls wear, the mob coats. I mean, honestly, they're like mini couches, but they're quite heavy. Oh yeah, they're heavy.
There's like, here's your workout while on stage.
Sure. Yes, but go dance in it too.
Yeah, go dance in it, and it's great. It's like,
exactly.
Did the people who made the costumes dance?
They're like, at least it looks pretty.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
So pretty.
Yeah. And then, okay, so you've been on the tour for like over 3 years now, yeah?
Girl, next month makes 5. Yeah, the 5. I was in the ensemble for almost 4 years. It was like 3 years, 8 months before I transitioned to Glinda. Yeah, girl.
Wow.
5 years.
Okay, how is it something that's still exciting going to work? Like, how do you view it as something exciting going to work 5 years later then?
That's a good question. For me, I always have to think about like, well, that's the beauty of live theater. It's always, there's always going to be a new show. You can't go back that night. There's no rewind button. So I think that's the beauty of live theater is it's different. You have a different audience. You have different moods in your cast. You had a different work day. But for me, I think about the little girl, the little boy watching the show for the first time. And that was me, that I was so enthralled with theater. I was so enchanted. I thought it was the coolest thing ever when I saw Glinda come from the bubble for the first time. And you have to think about, you're sharing that story. Somebody's seeing that for the very first time. So you try to make it special each and every day because you don't know who's watching it.
Yes, true. And do you all have freedom, like, in even the ensemble to make the ensemble like the ensemble tracks a little different every night if you want?
Yeah, you still have your track and your blocking. Like you gotta have to stay to that because you don't want anybody to get hurt. But you definitely, you have character choices and different things that you can choose to do, and that's what makes Wicked so fun and funky, and Oz is so like a little off kilter. So yeah, definitely you can make some character choices for sure.
Especially with the track you've played, I feel like you can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Danny was definitely moody on certain days and not so much on others.
Yeah, it's like different for even repeat audiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I know there's a lot of.
Which is fun. We love, 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 love seeing the same fans come to see the show over and over again. Like, I remember seeing you in LA so many times, and I loved it.
Yes, I couldn't get enough of that cast.
Oh.
It was like that group of people, so talented and amazing. I was like,
really good cast. They always pack them in phenomenally, but that was a great cast in LA.
Yes. And what's your favorite thing about being on the road? What's your favorite city you've been to, like a city you look forward to going to?
Oh yeah, I love to travel. I do. I was so excited when I got the job because I knew I was going to get to go different places that I'd never been to. So I love traveling. Toronto, Nashville, San Diego. Those are like my favorite cities. And I probably could pick like 5 more. I don't know. I love going to different like little boutiques in different cities, or coffee shops or juice shops. It's just nice to look back and somebody say like where they're from, and you're like, oh, I've been there and I actually love this place. I had the best croissant there, the best matcha latte. Just you're able to relate to different people, especially when you just meet someone new.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's really nice. It's really cool. It's always a good conversation starter for sure.
Nashville, did you feel like that that city had the nicest people?
Yes, I love Nashville. I love it. The food. There is a place called Proper Bagel, and if I could have gone there every day, I would have. I wouldn't have fit in my costume. It's incredible. But the people. I think that's what makes the city so special, is the people.
You could have like arranged like a sponsorship with that bagel place.
Like, if that's a true thing, if you're watching, I love Proper Bagel. No, I do.
Find the Instagram handle and I'll mention them.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we can make it happen.
Okay, fantastic. I'm a bagel fan.
Yes. And then what was your first time understudying Glinda like?
Oh, the coolest thing. So it was at Christmas time. It wasn't planned, but my mom and my brother actually flew in to visit me in St. Louis. And so they just happened to be there. And so I got the call, and it was it's probably one of my favorite moments that I've ever had. Just being able to come out of the bubble for the first time. I was nervous as nervous can be. I thought I was going to throw up. I was so nervous. But I was like, you can't. So you might as well figure out how not to. But it was the most magical experience. I could see my mom on the 5th row when I came down. It just, everything about it was just the most perfect day.
Was it scary getting in the bubble at first?
It's not really scary when you have your costume on, because the bubble dress is weighted. Like, it's a heavy dress, and so you feel really secure in the bubble. When you're in rehearsal, you don't have the dress on though, and you have a harness, but you don't have the dress, so it's a little lighter weight. So it's a little swingy. But other than that, no, I don't get too scared, just because we are clipped in at all times and it's safe.
Who was your first alphabet to perform with?
First alphabet. So my put-in rehearsal was with Mary Kate, but then my actual performance was with Emily Cook.
Oh,
very, very sweet girls. I'm a big fan of both of them.
Both phenomenal alphas.
Both phenomenal, and just so supportive and kind. Like, you couldn't have had a better cast or a better alphabet to help, welcome you into the show. They're good people for sure.
And the chemistry is important between whoever's playing Glinda in Alphabet too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know that those two girls are gonna protect you at all costs and make sure that you're okay and in the right spot, you're good to go. And I completely trusted them.
and you played Glinda a lot before getting the lead even. How many times do you know how many times you understudied Glinda?
Oh gosh, I want to say it was somewhere in the 70s. I had it like written down before I left. It was somewhere in the 70s. So I had done it a lot.
Yeah.
It was nice because I didn't have to really think too much. The first couple, I'd say the first 10 times I was Glinda, like I had to think before I went on and really focus. But then it got to a point where I was able to do it multiple times in a row where it just felt really comfortable and it was fun.
Yeah, you probably get in your head the first couple times and then you're like, okay, I've done this before. It's fine. People are gonna love it.
You're like, no one's gonna die. Everything's gonna be okay. And then you're able to have a lot of fun.
So when did you find out that you were gonna be the lead Glinda on the tour?
So it's the weirdest, crazy thing. I've told the story a million times, but basically I was on vacation when I did my self-tape for this. I was in Zion National Park. And so I sent in a self-tape for it and I didn't think anything of it, honestly. I didn't know who they were looking for the replacement, but I had left the show. I went on vacation with my family and then I had been gone maybe like 5 days. And then I came home back to Florida. I had just booked my flight back to New York to go back and audition and look for apartments and do the whole shebang. And it was, I think, July 30th is my agent called and her literal words were, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, I still am not thinking Glinda's even on the radar. Like I was like, oh gosh, is something wrong? Like what has happened? And she said, "You're going to be the North American tour Glinda." And I immediately burst into tears. And it was so special because I had my mom sitting next to me. And the first time I got my phone call for Wicked, I was by myself. I wasn't with my mom. I was at my day job. And this time she was next to me. And it was just the most rewarding feeling to see your mom know that her child actually has like accomplished her dreams. All of the rehearsals she had taken me to, every single voice lesson. It was just really, really special.
Yeah, you got to celebrate with her too.
Yeah. So it was nice. So I was home in Florida for a bit.
Instead of like alone in like an apartment somewhere, you got to celebrate with
Yeah,
someone.
absolutely. I was home. So it was so great. And I went back to New York, but just for like 2 days to see my best friend. And then I came back home. I was like, I don't need to be here.
Yeah. You're like, now I'm going back on tour.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. I know I was excited when I found out that you were going to be the lead.
Oh, thanks, honey. Thank you.
Of course. So how is it different now being the lead versus understudying and like being Glinda 8 times a week?
Yeah, it is. It's different because it's your own. It's weird to think for some reason, maybe it's just because I did the show for so long, but transitioning to it was weird to be like, you're doing it 8 times. Like you're doing it 8 times a week and it's yours. Like, it's, you're not going back to your other track. You actually get to, play and develop your character. And you create your bond with your Elphaba, your wizard, your Bach, you're able to really build upon that. And those people have become like really great friends. So yeah, it's different knowing I get to do it 8 times a week. It's really cool.
And I've heard you and Talia are fantastic together.
Oh, thank you. I love her. I do. She's a phenomenal Elphaba, for sure.
I can't wait till the tour comes back and I can see you all together.
Me too. Me too.
Like, more people will get the chance to.
I can't wait. I really can't. We're so excited for whenever that day may be.
Yes, me too. And speaking of making Glinda your own, how do you go about making a character that's been around since 2003 your own?
Yeah, it's tricky. It is tricky. We live in a day of YouTube and social media, and you're like, how do you make it you, when somebody comes to see the show? And I've always stayed true to, I have to make it Allison. I'm kind of weird and quirky in real life. If you know me well, I'm usually found dancing down the hall in my own little world. And that just comes from me. It comes from who I am. I think I find myself with Glinda in many ways just because I think Glinda leads from her heart, and so do I. That's just kind of, that's just what always hits home for me. And I think that's what I try to just do is just live Glinda to the realest I can and make it as Allison as possible.
Yes. And how do you think you're different from Glinda?
Oh, that's a good question too. You're doing really well with these, Becca. You know, well, I would say like we do see Glinda like from a very shallow point of view at the very beginning of the show. We see a popular girl. I will say I was not popular in high school. I was a book nerd. I was academic. I loved school. Like truly, like I truly was like, I did the debate club and mock trial. I was like, am I gonna go to law school? Like, is that what I want to do? So I think I definitely differ with her in that way. I was not popular. But yeah, so I think you can find like different ways. We both learn hard lessons along the way. You know, you see Glinda and she goes on a long journey and she grows as a person. And I feel like that's very parallel to my life.
I feel like I could see Glinda as a lawyer, though.
Honestly, Elle Woods, like mix her between Elle Woods and Glinda and have a baby. And it would be probably somewhere where I'm at.
Like honestly, I mean, I feel like by the end of the show, she could be like a really good lawyer.
Absolutely. And you know what? She probably has her like doctorate degree from Shiz University. Maybe she does.
Oh, yeah, probably. Most likely. What's your favorite part about performing popular in the show every night?
It's so fun. It really is fun. It's so, you know, it changes a little bit every night. You know, it just depends on who your alphabet is and what the audience is like. And, you know, we try not to do this show by any means just like to get a laugh or to make the audience feel a certain way, but you definitely feed upon that energy and what house you're playing. And so it's just fun. It's just really fun. It's one of my highlights of the show, I guess.
I feel like that's when I've seen some Elphabas like break character before, because like the Glindas do things that are unexpected. Have you ever made an Elphaba break character during that scene?
I have, yes, because you know we try to do things like not rehearsed all the time. That's what makes it fresh and fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to be careful that I don't break character because I'm bad. If I make Talia laugh, then I'm usually making myself laugh. So I don't do well when I see other people laughing on stage. If you laugh or cry, I'm going right down with you. Like the ship is going down. So yes, we have a really good time, but it definitely stays very spontaneous.
But that's what makes it fun for the audience, when like both people break character and it's like it's something different, and it's something like everyone can laugh at the same time and enjoy themselves.
Real people. You're playing characters, but they're real people. And I guess that's the thing, is that characters do break sometimes.
Yes. And then what's your favorite song besides Popular?
Oh, that's hard. I love the opening. I do. I love it. It's so magical and fun. But I love Thank Goodness.
Yes.
It's just like, I don't know, you see different parts of Glinda, but like you really are starting to see like, oh my gosh, this girl actually does have a little bit more depth than I thought. And I don't know, it's a powerful song, and it kind of hits in a different way. It just is always timely, what's ever going on in your life. So I've always loved to sing it.
You get the belting moment in that song too.
I do. I do. Yes. So that's always fun too. It's just like a different placement in the song singing world. And yeah, so it's kind of nice to do that for a bit.
And then I mean, do you have a favorite stage door experience? Because we kind of touched on how like Wicked fans, like the repeat audiences are so special, and like the audiences in general are so special for that show.
You know, there's a lot. Honestly, there's a lot. And I'm kind of one of those crazy people that if you ever send me mail or a gift at the stage door, I have a drawer in my room here and it's all been kept. So it's like I open it every once in a while and I'm like, I got to close this because this is my drawer of tears because I missed the show. So yeah, I mean, there was one time, there was a girl named Heidi. If you're watching, hi Heidi. She's from London, and you know she flew all the way over to Boston to see the show, and that was really special. She made me a little scrapbook, and I still have it. That's really special. We met a lot of great friends in LA. I met a lot of cool people, even on my debut as Glinda 4 years ago, which is insane. And those same people have come to see the show, which is just, it's really, really special.
Yeah, that has to be special to like have people like you met 4 years ago come see you now as lead.
Yeah, it becomes almost a small little family, and they've been so supportive and kind through the last 5 years of my run with the show, and you get to know people and actually really get to care about them and their lives, so it's really great.
And then what do you think makes Wicked a show that's so special, and has been able to be around and stay open since 2003?
I think people can identify with anybody they see on stage, any of the characters. Everybody at some point has probably felt like Elphaba. They felt isolated, alone, not cool, not accepted. I think people can see themselves as Glinda in a way that they learn a lot of hard lessons. They get rejected. I mean, Fiero hardcore rejects Glinda. And, then you question, am I not good enough? And I think that people are able to go back to see the show over and over again, whether you saw it as a kid in middle school or you're seeing it as an adult. You realize how much of those characters are part of your life. And it tells a lot of important messages about actually not judging a book by its cover, accepting people for who they are. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, especially this day and age right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kindness. And
kindness goes a long way.
Yes. If you could play any other character in the show, regardless of gender, who would it be?
I like Bach. I do. He has such a character transformation. You see him at the beginning and you're like, gosh, he's such a sweet little munchkin boy. And then towards the end, it's like, holy cow, you get to Governor's Mansion and Tin Man, and he's such a character arc. So I think he's great. I love Bach. Big fan.
And before I move on from Wicked, what's something that would maybe surprise someone about the show and about like tour life and about?
Gosh. You learn how to pack like a maniac. You do learn how to play packing Tetris with your clothes. So when, because we sit down for like 2 weeks is our shortest that we ever stay. And then sometimes we stay for 9 weeks. And sometimes you go shopping and you accumulate more clothes than you intended. So packing up is kind of hard sometimes. And also too, you don't realize how many people are backstage. There's almost more people in the crew than there is what's happening on stage,
overwhelming.
So choreography with wardrobe and hair, and it's pure magic back there. They make the show work.
Yeah, I can imagine how overwhelming it is.
It is. It definitely. They're like miracle workers, I swear.
Like between scenes, everyone running to make like their next cue on stage.
Yeah, and it is so choreographed to a T, just to make sure you don't run into anybody. Everybody knows where they're going.
Whoever came up with all the like directions backstage.
It's a good person. It's a good person.
Honestly, praise to them. And then what's something on your bucket list currently in theater? Because you've been doing Wicked for 5 years, almost 5 years.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Maybe a Disney show. I would love to do a Disney show one day. I'm a huge Disney fan. I just grew up, I'm a Florida girl. Disney World has been a part of my life. I'm actually going at the end of the month. So I love Disney. So maybe a Disney show. Maybe that would be in the future one day.
Oh, who's your favorite Disney princess?
This is hard. I love Cinderella, and it's funny because there's a little parallel kind of to her dress is kind of like Glinda's bubble dress. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I was a little blonde growing up, but I've loved Cinderella and her like big bun, and I think she's my favorite Disney princess.
Yes, I could see you as Cinderella.
Well, thank you.
I was gonna say Rapunzel too.
Oh yes. Let's bring that Tangled Rapunzel.
Yes, I need a Tangled musical.
I would do. Can you imagine with all the beautiful like lantern lights like floating?
I would go like 200 times just to see that.
I would too. I absolutely would too.
just to witness lanterns on stage, honestly. Why are you back? Oh, because I wanted to witness the lanterns.
We say we understand.
Do you have a dream role besides something that's Disney, like that's a Disney show?
Ooh, well, if there was like a dream role, like I would love to play Belle. If we're talking about a show that's already like has been a show, Belle. I would love to play Belle. I love Belle. But if we're talking about like a show in general, I don't know. Oh gosh, maybe Karen in Mean Girls, maybe.
Okay.
Why not? That just sounds fun.
Yes.
Then what else would there be? Elle Woods, maybe. Amber Von Tussle. Let's think of all the Mean Girl roles are fun, I think.
Yes, that'd be amazing. Except like you're like the polar opposite of a Mean Girl, so it's like.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope no one thinks I'm part of a plastic group, but it's a fun show. I think that's always a fun show to watch.
I find it interesting because it's like the nicest people always want to play like someone who's different from them on stage.
Yeah, that's the beauty of theater. It's just a role. It's not, you take it off the clothes and the costumes and you become yourself. So I think it's fun to play somebody completely opposite.
And I'm going to go back to what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on stage, because I love stories.
Let's think. One of them was I was running off in the bubble dress at the very beginning of the show, and I took 2 steps and I fell flat on my face. So I had half of my body off stage, and then the other half were like the big like poofy dress was still on stage. And my dresser like yanked me off by my hands and just like pulled me off. And most people would probably think that's mortifying, but I thought it was so funny. Like, I couldn't stop laughing. Like, I think I was still in for good, and I was still half laughing about it. It was so embarrassing. It's so funny. So probably falling flat on my face in the bubble dress will do it.
I love the moments that are like so mortifying, but it's like at the same time you're like, I can laugh about that.
You have to. Otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy. I mean, obviously things embarrass me, but it takes a lot to like really make me embarrassed. I more think things are funny and think about what the audience just saw. They just saw basically a cupcake fall on her face. So
you're like, is she all right? Yeah. Who inspires you as an actress in theater world?
Oh, goodness. Well, Sutton Foster. I grew up loving Sutton Foster. I mean, what's there not to love? I actually met her at Disneyland. I was on, I think it was like a Wild Mouse ride. And she was behind us on the single rider section. Super kind, super sweet. So I loved Sutton Foster. I grew up, it's funny too. I loved Laura Osnes. Like I have, been watching her career. I voted for her on You're the One That I Want on NBC. Just unbelievable careers as women. And obviously Kristen Chenoweth, how can you not mention her? Just incredible women.
Yes. Have you met Kristen Chenoweth since becoming Glinda? Not yet?
I have not. Out of those 3 women, Kristen is the only one I have not met.
Oh my goodness.
I met her at the stage door when I saw Promises, Promises like years ago. But no, I've actually never met Kristen.
But it'd be different now because you could be like, hey, like, I'm Glinda now. And you're like,
oh, it would be so fun. It would be so fun. So maybe one day.
Yes, one day it'll happen.
I hope so. Thanks, Becca.
Yeah. And if you could revive any Broadway show that's like closed too early, what show would it be?
Oh, gosh. Hard-hitting question, Becca. I loved Bridges in Madison County. I saw that my senior year of college, right after College Showcase. I thought it was phenomenal. The music is just mind-boggling good. It's so good. And I don't think it had a long enough run on Broadway. So I would love to see Bridges in Madison County. I would have loved to see Anastasia stick around a little longer. I saw it in previews, and I wanted to see it again. I thought it was fantastic.
So you got to see Crossing a Bridge in the show.
I did. Yes, I did.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I saw it on tour, so it wasn't on the tour.
Yeah, so I got to see that. So, I saw it a long time ago, and I was really excited about maybe seeing it again, but it closed.
Yeah, closed too early. And, I mean, I think it's going back on tour, but, like, differently.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know what's necessarily happening, but I had heard that too. And seeing Christy, it's a masterclass. I'm not going to lie. I don't really cry too much in theater, but I was crying at curtain call, and I was like, why are my eyes leaking? She was so good. So good. So good.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine. I haven't seen her on stage yet, but...
Oh, it's really good. Really, really good.
That's what I've heard. And then, how do you work on self-confidence in this industry? Because you're so positive, and, like, I feel like self-confidence is hard.
It does not come natural for me. It does not. Like I said, I didn't grow up like the popular kid. And I was always self-conscious actually about a lot of things, and I think you just have to for me, what I've been trying to do as of recent, you have to wake up every day and just be yourself. Are you happy making the decisions you're making with your life? I'm a people pleaser. I love to make everybody else happy instead of myself. I would rather somebody be else happy and approve of me versus am I even approving of what I'm doing? So I think every single day you just have to wake up and say, am I going to make myself happy when I put my head on the pillow at night? And so I think that's really important. It's just to be true to yourself.
I feel like I'm one of those people pleasers too, and it's like it's an interesting situation because you don't always concentrate on yourself as much as you need
Yes,
to.
and and we're in such a weird age with social media. We're with a constant filters and looking a certain way, and it makes you wonder and question sometimes when you look in the mirror and things like that. And I can't imagine being in middle school or high school at this day and age because I didn't have that. I didn't have to compare that. So yeah, I think sometimes you just have to take a reality check, put the phone down, and just be happy with who you are.
And a couple lighthearted questions before I get into one of the last questions, which is kind of a deep question.
Okay.
What's the first thing you're gonna do once quarantine ends?
Oh, what are some things I'm going to do? I can't wait to hug my friends. I have not seen my best friend, Catherine, and my best friend, Rachel, in over a year. I haven't been able to hug them, see them. They have their own families and doing their own thing. One lives in New York still. And so it's hard to go visit and see each other. So I can't wait to see my friends. I'm really excited about that. In theater.
Yeah, theater. What's the first show you're going to see as an audience member when theater comes back?
Well, I know I can't see Wicked. What's another show I'll go see? Well, gosh. What are you gonna go see, Becca?
I don't know. I was thinking, Wicked, Frozen, and I was thinking Six.
Oh, that's what I want to see. I want to see Six. I do. I really want to see
good
Six.
things.
So I can't wait to see Six. There are so many shows on the docket that I was really excited about for the new year. So Six is one of them.
Yes, I can't wait to finally get to see that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, London let us in yet, so I can go there and see
it. Maybe.
And then where's the first place you're going to go?
Where I'm going to go? Well, probably wherever Wicked takes me. But for vacation?
Yes.
Gosh, well, this is kind of silly, but we were supposed to go to Hawaii this year and we've had to cancel 3 different times because of quarantine. So hopefully Hawaii.
Yes.
Go to Hawaii. That was my brother's graduation trip. He just graduated from pharmacy school this year, and that was going to be his big trip. That's all he wanted to do. And it's okay. He understands. But I think I want to celebrate him, and let's go to Hawaii.
Yeah, to graduate from like that program.
Yeah, 8 years of school. Much smarter than me. So
you all deserve that trip and celebration moment with him.
Thanks, girl. Thanks. Well, I'll be celebrating him for sure.
Yes. And then kind of deep question, what do you think live theater will be like when it is able to safely come back?
I don't really know necessarily what it looks like on the scale of what an audience is going to look like. Are we going to be having masks? What is the PPE? Like, what's it going to look like? But I know it's going to be special. I think everybody is going to be so appreciative to be there, not just as an audience member, but also as an actor, to be able to perform in front of an audience and have your castmates. And for me, it's going to be special to look out and just see people together again. You don't really see a mass group of people. I mean, I see people in a grocery store, but at some point you feel that, I don't know, it's almost a moment of isolation. You feel surrounded by people, but when you're in quarantine, you still feel kind of alone and isolated. So it'll be nice to be in a group of people where everybody's focusing on each other for the next 2.5 hours.
And I'm sure that the applause after the "it's good to see me" is going to last for 10 minutes.
If it is a muffle of just people wearing masks, I will be the happiest clam. So I don't know what it's going to be like, but I will be just so happy to come out of that bubble and see faces.
Yeah, that applause is going to last. You're going to be like, okay, is the applause over yet? It's going to be like 20 minutes later.
And that I will happily stand there.
They're like, how do they cut out the applause that lasts for so long?
I know.
And then, do you think virtual theater will stick around?
Probably at some sense. I mean, I'm sure there's it's great because I don't know necessarily if that's the way that theater is going to go, but people have the option to continue to create art and do it virtually and be able to outreach to a lot of people. I think we've all learned it's awesome. We can teach classes, we can have Zoom calls, we're able to see people virtually in a way that we probably wouldn't have been able to do 10 years ago. So I think theater can continue that way. I just think the beauty of live theater is being able to just be in the same room together. And I can't wait for that to happen.
And then speaking of classes and like the Zoom calls, do you have anything that you want to promote? Because I know you've been teaching, you've been doing classes.
Yeah. Oh, you're so sweet. Yes. So I teach, whether that be just, coaching for auditions for college or musicals in your community or whatever that may be. I do coachings. So Allison Bailey coachings at gmail.com or my Instagram, which is just my name, Allison Bailey.
Has it been fun, like, watching students that you're teaching, like, grow?
Yes, it's so rewarding. And it's so cool because, some of them I've seen at stage doors and I've actually met, and some I've never been able to see in person, but I hope to one day. And it connects us on such a, at a global level because you're able to outreach to different people in different cities that I would never be able to teach to just in person. So yeah, it's really rewarding to be able to help in some way.
And then do you have anything else that you'd want to promote, whether it's theater related or not?
Honestly, just coming to see the show. Whenever we start back, that's super exciting. It's just being able to come back and see Wicked. Also, an organization that's so near and dear to my heart is Rally Foundation, which supports childhood cancer research. And all of my cameo is donated to their organization. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the description of this.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you so much.
Of course. And for people to find out what you're up to, where can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me at Allison Bailey. That's my Instagram, and that will just connect us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for coming on and talking.
Thank you so much for having me. You were such a dream. Truly. So sweet.
Of course. I'm glad to have you. I was very excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much. You were so flexible, so kind, and you're always so supportive. You've been so supportive. And gosh, I can't believe LA has been 2 years ago?
Almost 2 years, yeah. Almost exactly 2 years.
Yeah, December, I can't believe that I'm like 18. So thanks for sticking by us.
Of course. I mean, you all were my first Wicked cast, so.
Well, we can't thank you enough for always being so kind, and I'm really excited for you. You're fantastic at interviewing.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, so good.
Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!